like no one's done it before.
Some incredible stories, some incredible companies.
Welcome to Silicon Slopes Live. I'm joined by Jonathan Johnson, who is the CEO of Overstock.com. How are you?
I'm great, Garrett. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for taking time. I know you're very busy. So, Overstock is doing very well, and it's doing exceedingly well since you became CEO. And I heard you talking earlier today. In fact, when you joined the company, it kind of resembled a garage sale swap meet type of thing. So you've come a long ways. The company's come a long ways. How has the past year in particular been for you, and what has been your focus as CEO?
So I've been the CEO for just shy of 2 years. And when I first became the CEO, the focus was to get focus. We had 27 key initiatives that we were working on. We had a blockchain business that was separate from our online retail website, and there just wasn't much focus. So at the end of 2019, we decided to work on 4 initiatives in 2020 for the e-commerce business, and we kept the blockchain business, off on the side working what it was doing. That turned out to be really important because when the pandemic came, had we not had that focus, the gale wind of the pandemic would have been a headwind or a side wind that blew us over. Instead, it was a tailwind that propelled us forward. As people stayed at home, as they were looking for home office furniture, then later area rugs and patio furniture, living at home all the time, and they couldn't buy it anywhere other than online, it was like a twofer for us. We were a home furnishing company, and we were online, and then we were focused.
Yeah. So you winnow it down from 27 to 4, and I assume that was a process with your team, right? Like, how are we going to focus on this? Why? And there was probably dissenting opinions. With your leadership style, how did you manage that kind of the cutting of focuses?
Well, everyone has a pet project that they want to be one that's chosen. And frankly, that's probably why we had 27 to start with. We were very focused on the return on investment. We had our financial planning and analysis group scrub the potential return on investment for each one, scrub the costs, see how it would help foster new creation, new innovation for the next year, which potential initiatives lined up behind others or in front of others. And it became pretty clear that there were 5 or 6. Getting it down to the final 4 was really hard. But ultimately, we had long, drawn-out discussions as a senior executive team. But when the decision was made, everyone committed, and everyone said, this is what we're focused on. This is what we're going to work on in 2020. We did the same thing for 2021, and we now have 4 initiatives again. And we are just this month starting the process for what we'll choose for 2022. It's a process that always continues. And I think when people know that, they can be confident, well, maybe my project didn't get selected this year, but there's a good chance we can get it next year if we make a better case for it.
Yeah. So the timing was good for 2020. How long did that take for you guys to get your focus down? Is it weeks, months? And ultimately, as CEO, what is your main role in that process?
So we started that process for 2020 probably in September of 2019, had it wrapped up by December, so we knew what we were working on. This year we're starting in June. We hope to have it wrapped up by probably October-ish. It's a long process because we want to make sure we know our numbers, that we've done the analysis, because if we're going to commit the company to focus on 1, 2, 3, 4 things, they need to be the right things. I'm not in a hurry to make those decisions.
Yeah. And I assume this aren't, you're not reading the tea leaves and following your heart. These are numbers and metrics that drive this innovation, right?
Yeah. One of the core values at Overstock is to know your numbers. We can't do things based on gut. We gather so much customer data. We're scouring market data. We're seeing where things are going. You know, for us as an online home furnishings company, we're looking at housing starts. We're looking at moving trends. We're looking at all kinds of data to decide, okay, what's next for us?
So if you're not kind of a data person and you're a little bit weary of numbers, it kind of takes the fun out of things, right? But they can also be fun, especially with the amount of data that you guys have. Like you can kind of see what people are going to doing, and that's got to be a little bit fun to see that, oh, look at this patio furniture. It's not coincidence.
Yeah, and you know, not everyone's a numbers person. I mean, I was a lawyer by training, and I was told by one of my first-year professors that lawyers are fugitives from math, that we don't get numbers. Well, I've become a numbers person because I like to see trends. I like to be able to predict where we go. But every company, once you've decided what to do based on the numbers, you need messaging people. You need product managers that get things done. There's a place in the company for all kinds of people. Not everyone needs to be Rain Man, but you need Rain Man to help decide where to go, and then others to help get you there.
Yeah. All right, so I assume you guys kind of had a little bit of a war footing in March, April, May of last year. What were some of the concerns? Was it supply chain? Was it employees? I assume it was fairly hectic. How did you compartmentalize the important stuff?
Yeah, so we all began working from home in the middle of March. You know, the good news is we had kind of thought this might happen, and we'd done a test run a few weeks earlier to see what it would be like working from home. We saw some hiccups, and we were able to kind of correct those before we had to all work from home. Our number one priority has always been the safety of our employees, and so we haven't required people to go back to work. We won't require them to go back to work until at the earliest January 2022. Our biggest problem at the beginning of the pandemic was keeping product in stock. There was just such a demand that was unforeseen. Now the good news is we have a very distributed supply chain with 3,000 to 4,000 different supplier partners that give us products. So if one sold out, we had others that usually had product there. But our in-stock percentage was low. Our ability to fulfill on time was a little slower. So it was important that we message to our customers, you're not going to get this in 2 days. It may be 6 days. And we've found, particularly in the large parcel business, that accuracy of delivery estimate is more important than speed of delivery. People, if you're ordering toothpaste or toilet paper, you want it today or tomorrow. If you're ordering a 10-foot area rug, you don't need it tomorrow, but you want to know if it's coming next Wednesday, it's coming next Wednesday. So we've really focused on accuracy of delivery estimate to try and keep our customers happy.
Yeah, that makes sense. So who had, of all the employees in the roles, whether it's mid-level or executives, who had the most heartburn in March, April, May of last year?
Well, I'll always tell you, the people that are our front line and solve most of the problems and therefore have the most heartburn are our customer service representatives. And particularly when we weren't delivering as quickly as we historically had because of the huge sales volume, they were the ones that suffered the brunt of it. They did yeoman's work. They were working from home for the first time. Their supervisors were, managing them remotely. They did a fantastic job. Our warehouse workers, shipping, keeping up with the demand, did a wonderful job. So there was a lot of heartburn, but I'd say that's where it burned the hottest.
I can imagine, yeah. So most of the folks that are on this stage are not public company CEOs. And there's, speaking of heartburn, there's heartburn associated with that. What are one or two things that people might perceive as a public CEO that are cool and fun, but really are not?
Well, I mean, you're in the public all the time. Being a public company is a little bit like being Bill Murray in Groundhog's Day. Every quarter, you're doing an earnings release and you're filing your financial disclosures with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Shareholders are demanding. They expect to have accurate predictions of what you're going to do and for those predictions to be met. So there's a little bit of a Groundhog Day part of it, and that can be tiring and tiresome, but it's also really exciting and energizing to tell a story and to be able to deliver on it. To go to shareholders and say, you know, this is what we said we were going to do, and we did, or better. And one of the things I love to do is to tell the Overstock story. I've been with the company for almost 2 decades. I love the company. I bleed Overstock red. Talking about what we've done and where we're going is really exciting for me.
Yeah. So with the earnings calls, is there a little bit of dread as those get closer, or are you excited? Are you the challenge is there? You're going to knock it out of the park, and then do you sleep really good the night it's over?
It kind of depends on what the results are. You know, when the results aren't as good, there's dread, and you've got to have to take the medicine. You know, I didn't deliver. When we've, you know, beat consensus estimates, it's a pretty exciting thing. And we usually hold our earnings calls early in the morning before the market opens. So 6:30 Utah time, we're on a call. There's been a lot of preparation. Our calls are scripted. We anticipate questions that investors or analysts will ask. You know, I don't ever want to be caught flat-footed. I'm a big believer in being prepared. So there are a lot of work, but when you do one well, when you've predicted the questions that are going to get asked and you have good answers, it is exhilarating. Yeah. I will tell you, I'm always exhausted at the end of earnings calls day. I sleep well that night, not necessarily the night before.
Yeah, I can imagine. So 4 times a year, you've got at least a little adrenaline rush and then
yes,
a good night's rest. So the debates kind of raged for as long as I've been paying attention. You know, a couple of times a year, there'll be a journal or an article in Wall Street Journal. You know, these quarterly earnings are not great for public companies because they can't focus on the long term. But obviously, it hasn't changed in the 20 years that I've kind of been reading it. Where do you land on that?
Well, look, I think a company's duty is to build long-term value. And when we're going to make an investment at Overstock that may have a negative impact, you know, 1 quarter or 2, it's my responsibility to explain to shareholders why it's a good decision. That's part of the storytelling. It's part of the explanation that CEOs have to give. And if it's the right decision, the street can understand that and pick up on it. You know, some shareholders are really not investors. They're traders, and they may get out for a period of time. But if you've got good, smart owners, they'll understand that, you know, 1 quarter, 2 quarter of investment for long-term increased value is an important thing that, you know, they'll sign up for. But that's a difficult balance.
Yeah, for sure. Are you the type of CEO that checks the stock price daily, weekly, monthly, or never?
Not never. I do check it. You know, I want to know particularly where Overstock ranks among Utah-based public companies. I like to keep climbing that ladder. I don't check it daily. Sometimes my wife will let me know if it's gone up or down. I think she checks it frequently. So it's not top of mind, but it's never too far deep in mind.
Got it. Another kind of big initiative that you've done in your time as CEO is kind of give Medici Ventures over to Peloton. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So Overstock for 4 or 5 years had a kind of a venture arm, Medici Ventures, which was investing in blockchain technology companies, 21 different investments. I ran that business. When I became the CEO of Overstock, it was probably too big a responsibility to run both. And so I began looking for someone to backfill and be the president of Medici Ventures. And I really realized that these companies had graduated from the small, early seed stage startups that we'd invested in. They had product in production. What they needed was someone that helped them to get product to market, help them raise Series A, Series B rounds, help them maybe round out their management teams. And it dawned on me, that's what venture capital firms do. And so we talked to lots of venture capital firms. Turned out that the best one was right here in our backyard with Peloton Ventures. And so we have taken that venture arm, created a limited partnership, and Peloton manages that as our general partner. And it will do well when we do well. When those companies have exits or financial events, it shares in the winnings that would come to us. I think it's really a nice solution. And we've got, Peloton knows how to do what we were trying to do better than we knew. So I can focus on running an e-commerce company that's giving dream homes for all, something I think I know how to do. And Peloton can focus on getting these startups out of the nest and helping them soar and fly.
Yeah, it's a good fit. Do you remember where you were the first time you heard, blockchain?
Yeah, I do. So in 2013, I was the president of Overstock, and my then teenage son, Porter, was, I think, a senior in high school, might have been a junior, but he was lolling on the couch like only teenage boys know how to do. And he said, "Dad, when's Overstock going to start accepting Bitcoin?" And I said, "Porter, I don't even know what that sentence means." And he explained to me about digital currency and cryptocurrency, and I started researching about it. And of course, the underlying blockchain technology, got pretty excited about it, so that a few months later, in December of 2013, when someone said in one of our senior executive meetings, "Hey, when's Overstock going to start accepting Bitcoin?" The exact same question. I didn't have to admit I didn't understand what that sentence meant. And we made the decision that we would start accepting Bitcoin, and we had a group of developers work on it frantically in between Christmas and New Year's. And January 9th, 2014, Overstock became the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. And part of that, the reason for that, was because we wanted to make it easier for people to buy stuff on our site. But really a primary reason was so that our development team could understand blockchain technology better. I think blockchain is going to be bigger than the internet over time, that the information superhighway that we used to call the internet will become a digital asset superhighway for using blockchain technology.
Yeah, and so how long do you think that'll take? Like, it'll be my grandkids, my great-grandkids, that it's just second nature to them? What do you think the evolution will be?
Oh, I think it's not going to, well, I don't know how old your kids are, but I think it's going to be a lot earlier than grandkids. I think particularly in the developing world, they will accept and adopt blockchain technology sooner, because blockchain technology takes out intermediaries, middlemen, that allow people that don't know each other to trust each other in a transaction through intermediaries. Well, blockchain is trust through technology. In developing countries, I think they'll get there fast. In developed countries like the U.S., I think that there are well-established intermediary incumbents that will probably fight against it. Frankly, I thought we'd be further along today in 2021 than we are when we first started working on this in 2014. But I think once we hit the upslope on the S-curve of adoption, it'll be pretty steep.
Yeah. So when I was mentioning to a buddy that I was going to be chatting with you today, and he said, ask him this question: What does Overstock do with their Bitcoin and crypto?
So when we first started accepting Bitcoin back in 2014, we immediately converted into US dollars. Then as we had some partners and even employees who would accept Bitcoin. We kept 10% of our Bitcoin revenue, and Bitcoin turned the rest into US dollars. Today we keep all of it. We keep all of it, and our Treasury Department manages it. We use some to spend with vendors. Every once in a while, if we think the price is high, we'll sell. But by and large, we hodl, which of course is the crypto term for holding and being long on Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's way interesting. That's got to be pretty fun. You've got the stock price of Overstock, and then you've got a whole other market that you're watching.
We watch it, and I think cryptocurrencies will go up and down, and they've certainly fluctuated a lot in 2021. But if you're a long-term believer in the technology like I am, I think it's easy to have it and hold it, and be a believer. If it ever gets above a certain amount, our board has asked us to sell to keep it below that amount. Just so that we don't get too concentrated in one asset.
Yeah. Do you know what the best product of 2020 was from Overstock off the top of your head?
Well, I can tell you the best product in March and April were office chairs, as people decided that sitting on their kitchen stool was not going to work long term, and we sold a lot of those. We sold a lot of area rugs. We always sell a lot of mattresses. But I think the best product was probably outdoor patio furniture. As people tried to expand their living space from beyond the four walls of their home to the four corners of their property, we did sell a lot of patio furniture.
Yeah. And you find, like, when you go visit friends or if you're in somebody's house, that you're critical of furniture?
No, I'm never.
Way?
Not particularly. What I do find is that, very frequently someone will tell me, oh, we got this end table on Overstock, or this area rug we got at Overstock. And boy, that's always gratifying to know that people are helping build their dream homes using Overstock. And that's one of the fun things about running a company that's in a retail business that touches consumers.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, so we've talked about you're focusing on four things in 2020. You recalibrate each year with the focuses. What makes you the most excited for the next couple of years as being the leader of Overstock?
Boy, there's a lot of things to be excited about. We're trying to grow into Canada. We've tried to do that before, and we've got a different way that we think will be more successful. So that's really exciting. We've launched a new business to government initiative where the federal government picked us as one of 3 companies in a pilot where government procurement officers, what I would call buyers, can make micro purchases less than $10,000 without going through a big rigmarole if they buy off Overstock. So I think those things are exciting. I also think that as we focus on home and as we expand beyond what we do in the home space, whether that's deck materials or large appliances, there's a lot of areas to grow. And I think we're just at the beginning of what could be a really nice growth cycle for Overstock.
Yeah. You don't have to mention this person by name, or maybe it's a few different people, but I know you're a big proponent of hiring the right person, hiring the right who. Who are 1 or 2 key folks in your entire career that have been your best and probably most critical hires?
Well, one of the things I do when I try and hire the right person is to find someone who could do the job so much better than I could. I was the president of Overstock for many years. Our current president of Overstock, Dave Nielsen, is just a top-notch retailer. He knows how to sell things. He knows how to run the business. He's a fantastic partner. A year and a half ago, we hired a new chief financial officer. She's brought a whole new level of rigor and discipline and analysis to our business. She's been fantastic. It's hard. We have a fantastic chief people officer. And during the pandemic, having someone who was focused on making sure our employees were safe and that they could work well. Megan Tuig did that as well as anyone I could ever imagine. Look, we've got a really great team at Overstock. You've kind of asked me, Garrick, to say, which of my children is my favorite. It's unfair to name any. I've named 3 that have just been really great this last year.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. Overstock has kind of been one of the tenets of Silicon Slope that, for better or worse, oftentimes gets overlooked, but you guys have been here since the beginning and always supportive of us and have an amazing, company and culture. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today.
We love Silicon Slopes. We love what you've done for this community, the startup community, and the tech community. We're no longer a startup, but we're still a technology company. So thanks for growing this business.
You bet. Thank you.